Sustained drift happening now. You can do this with an all-wheel drive car. This is insane. Hey crew, I've got the key to that 24 Chevy Corvette E-Ray. We are going to take it for a drive, but first, let's check out how it looks on the inside and outside. This is the first ever electrified Corvette, and visually it looks a lot like the Z06 without the Z07 package. Both have the wide bodies, but the E-Ray has body color matching trim pieces, whereas the Z06 has those black accents or carbon fiber. This one's painted in the new cacti color. It's a greenish gray. And over there is the new sea wolf color. I like that one a lot. You still have projector LED headlights with LED DRLs and turn signals. Above, lots of functional ventilation and an extending front splitter. At the side is a new 5-spoke wheel design, forged alloys in a few different finishes. This is the polished finish, 20-inch front, 21-inch rear wheels, wrapped in a new Michelin Pilot Sport all-season tire, 275 section front, 345 at the rear. That makes it the widest all-season tire equipped to any car, and within those wheels are standard carbon ceramic brakes. You can also get the PS4S tires like you get in the Z06 as an option. Here are some flared out rocker panels, body color matching door mirror caps, the E-Ray badge just outside of the air inlets on the side to cool that mid-mounted motor. Looking at the profile, it's definitely a different look without the contrast of the side trim, and Chevy says that's to make the car have a more premium look to it. What do you think? As we get to the back, there is some more contrast though. The roof of this convertible model in gloss black, the undersides of a lip spoiler, and the diffuser with the 4 squared off exhaust outlets at the corners, unlike the Z06, which has the center exit exhaust. The rear view does have the same width though, and I love that. I even like this color. Maybe not as much as the Seawolf, but it's still cool. My question for you, does the E-Ray in both coupe or convertible look distinct enough as the first electrified, the first all-wheel drive Corvette ever? Let me know in the comments, and let's check out the interior. Opening up and looking inside at this new Artemis color for the interior. It's like a taupe for this 3LT trimmed cabin with a GT2 carbon bucket seats that have power adjustments and are heated. On the doors, there's leather all over the panels with nice contrast stitching. You get a Bose Performance Series sound system, gloss carbon fiber trim, some suede here, one-touch windows, power adjusting and power folding door mirrors. Stepping inside, closing up that door, looking at the carbon fiber squared off wheel, and just beyond it is a new animation for the E-Ray, showing off that electric propulsion system. That's surrounded by carbon fiber for the gauge cluster, and then you have an E-Ray badge here. We also had to step over an E-Ray tread plate, and to listen for the door close thud. That sounds pretty solid. Looking at the steering wheel, we've got carbon fiber top and bottom. It's squared off, which is interesting to get used to, but somehow it just works. In the hands, we've got leather and then carbon fiber paddles in the back, very large ones at that. There is a head-up display with stitched leather up on the dashboard. Then, of course, our spine of HVAC controls, just like the standard Stingray. Lots more carbon fiber here with the 3LT, leather topping your drive mode selector. Your gear selection is here. Then we've got I can't remember the size of the infotainment system. I just know it's very responsive, and it does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. To the left of the screen is a volume knob and home button. I like those physical redundancies. Leather tops the console. Inside, there's not a lot of space. You do get 2 USB ports, one A, one C, and a wireless charging slot. There's a digital rearview mirror when the car is on, and a suede wrapped headliner for that convertible top that's up right now. And headroom for myself at 6 feet, my head just barely clears the roof, but it does, so I'll give it a thumbs up. And this cabin overall has the most luxurious Grand Touring vibe I've ever seen in the Corvette. Now we need to see how the E-Ray drives. All right, we're going to fire it up in stealth mode. That means our Corvette is on silently as an EV. Hello, cabin crew. Thank you for joining me for this first drive in the Chevy Corvette E-Ray. I'm joined by Eddie of Eddie X. Go find him on YouTube, on other social media, and we're going to take our first drive in this car. This is just a really surreal experience right now to be in a 655 horsepower Corvette that you can't hear at all. So we're going to start out in the stealth drive mode. I'm going to engage drive here. We've never had all-wheel drive in this vehicle. We got to see how well it turns around. So let's try that out. Wow, this turning radius is fantastic. Oh, we're gonna clear. I did not see that coming at all. That's amazing. And the world famous horn test follows that up. It's a chipper sound. I like it. Turn signal sound now. You can hear it so much better when the car is not making V8 thunder. So starting in stealth, this is a drive mode that is intended to just allow you to get out of your neighborhood silently. You can work this up to 45 miles per hour or to a certain level of throttle input, or if you drain the 1.9 kilowatt hour battery pack. So we'll see the transition here happen when I get past 45. You can see starting the engine, little animation on the gauge cluster, but we don't hear much from that V8. Now granted, we are going downhill here, but the gauge cluster changes. We saw the animation from Unreal Engine there. That's really cool, taking us into the tour drive mode. And now we're operating as an all-wheel drive Corvette. This is a first. So we've got a combined output from that front electric motor that makes 160 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque, and Chevy's LT2 V8 in the back that makes 495 horsepower. Our total is 655 horsepower, which is down just 15 horsepower to the Z06 at 670. But the torque figure is much, much more. And so that even in tour mode, you've got just this mid-range punch. You feel the front axle pull you forward as no Corvette has ever done before. Another thing that Chevy was really proud of with this E-Ray is not just the 0 to 60 of 2.5 seconds, which I hope we'll have a chance to just sample that a little bit, but the mid-range passing power of this car. They said it breaks all of their records for just, you know, a 40 to 70 run or 50 to 80 run, which is very tempting, isn't it? So let's just see what that does. That looks like. Man, these animations are really cool. I swear these weren't like this on the standard Stingray.
That's another big change.
That's pretty awesome. All right, so we're just gonna go from 60 to 80 real quick. Kicks down the gear quick, gives you that extra grunt, and of course, the all-wheel drive system really unlocks a different opportunity for Corvette owners to use this car more than just 2 or 3 seasons, depending on where you live. Tomorrow, we're going to be on a wet track, and we will get to see how having the front-driven axle come into play really affects the performance of this car. We've got 345 section all seasons at the back, 275 section up front. It is going to make some tire noise, but the ride is very good. The adaptive dampers in this car. Chevy said that they're able to operate at 4 cylinders more in the E-Ray than you can in the standard Stingray, despite the fact that this has the wide body aerodynamics of the Z06, which creates more drag, and yet the combined fuel economy is the same as the standard Stingray. 19 combined. It has slightly better around town fuel efficiency, but slightly worse highway fuel economy. Man, it gets to those speeds very, very quickly and smoothly. Yes, you have the tire noise, right? That's a factor, but otherwise, the cabin's really well insulated, and the car feels so stable on that wide section tire, and having this wide body, it feels very planted, and it feels very at ease and comfortable at the speeds that it can achieve. Now, we've slowed back down before we're gonna get to a good mountain road, but I wanted to talk about what it's like to drive this car at these low speeds, because though it has stealth drive mode, you can only access it when you're first starting up the vehicle. So that if I wanted to cruise into a neighborhood after I've been driving the car quietly, I couldn't just engage stealth mode. I'd have to pull over, turn off the vehicle, then turn it back on in stealth mode. And I think that's kind of a miss from a design and use case standpoint. But Chevy has been clear that this is not really supposed to be your typical hybrid powertrain. This is supposed to be for performance, and that's why we've got the electrification of the front axle, not just for all-weather ability, but for the performance factor. So we're gonna go into track drive mode now. For those quick shifts, I'll leave it in auto mode and see how it handles these curves. Thankful for these standard carbon ceramics here, which have great bite, and you feel that front end grip instantly on turn in. Feeling of stability. In track, the steering is very heavy. With not a great amount of feel, I'll be honest. The resistance built up in the corner is just enough communication, but I wouldn't mind a little more. Hear the noise a little more here at lower speed, just kind of coming into it. It's a fun soundtrack, a fun profile. A little bit of regen to help us out as well, just slowing us before the corner. You can feel that e-motor pull you first at the front axle, and then the LT2 push you from the back. Mid-range is phenomenal. I'm going to move it into the sport drive mode now just to see as a contrast the steering heft, the shift timing, the throttle. I like the weight of the steering here better because in track it really does give you the heft without the feel. Speaking of heft, we've got 300 extra pounds compared to the Z06 in this E-Ray. And you feel the weight, but with the all-wheel drive, you still have the confidence when cornering. You're more aware of that in the braking distances. You understand why carbon ceramics are standard in this car. Now, right now, what I'm experiencing from the braking regeneration is very light slowing, but you can boost that with the battery plus mode here on the side of the tunnel, and that really does increase the braking regeneration. And Chevy says this is ideal for maybe if you're lapping on track consistently and you want to just store up as much charge as you can for one, maybe just timed run, then that's where the battery plus mode can function. But here even, it's just nice. I can take my foot off the throttle, and we slowed plenty before that curve. And heavy regen is actually something I appreciate about EVs, and so having it be just another lever you can pull for how to drive a car is kind of fun. And it's nice that you can play around with that here in the E-Ray. And that battery plus mode is really cool because it replenishes that small 1.9 kilowatt battery so fast. And I've yet to encounter a situation where I didn't feel like I had some electric juice to use, even when I was driving on that canyon or mountain road section for a while, kind of pushing it. And that just goes to show this battery can recoup very quickly, and you'll always have that all-wheel drive capability if you need it. Like, as an example, it just dumped a little bit of rain, the roads got damp, needed the all-wheel drive grip, we had it. It was never something that was going to be a concern. And I realize I haven't said what the all-electric range of the E-Ray is, but that's because this really isn't supposed to just be an EV. that also has gas power. This is really enhancing the performance of that naturally aspirated motor. And so you can get 4 to 5 miles of all-electric range in stealth drive mode. This feels very much like the Acura NSX, the current generation of it, or actually now extinct generation of it, because it just ended production. But it's kind of like that same focus. It's enhancing the performance here. So 4 to 5 miles of range in stealth, or you could lock it into shuttle mode, which is speeds up to 15 miles per hour, really just for moving your car around in a driveway. That would take a really long time, and I think you'd get bored before the battery ran out. Now that we're not going quite as quickly on a mountain road, I've got more thoughts on the steering. It is just absolutely dead on center. I get nothing. And then, as I said, it's very quick, very darting, almost too quick for its own good. And then the width of the tires seem to really just pull you in directions like a lane keep assist system would. And that means that if you're coming off center and then coming back, it's just a very strange sensation. So the lower speed stuff is not as good as the higher speed stuff, which still is just not as engaging and not as much feedback as even I have in the Z06. And so the tuning of this, I'm not sure how much is that e-motor and the regen effect of that, how much is the tires, but the concert of all of them is not something that I really enjoy. Now that the road surface is a little more damp, this car can really show off the confidence that it gives you with that all-wheel drive grip. The all-season tires do a great job here. Just adding the front-end grip and bite that rear-wheel drive versions of the Corvette just don't offer. And so even if you don't live in a climate where it's going to snow, seeing a little water on the ground is not going to scare you in the E-Ray. I think from on-road, my first impression is just that this car is clearly not trying to be as sharp as the Z06. It's trying to be more of a livable, everyday Corvette that just so happens to have all this power at its disposal. It's not going to be the enthusiast choice in the Corvette range necessarily. Not that it isn't enjoyable to drive at these speeds or in these environments. It just doesn't feel bred for it in the same way that the Z06 does, or even the C8 Z51. It feels more of a GT. And that's a cool new vertical for Chevy. It's cool that they're pushing into that territory with the interior refinement, the styling of this car, and this all-weather performance. It's nice to see. But now I think it's time to jump ahead to our track drive portion in the E-Ray to see how it does in that environment. All right, crew, as you can see, the first thing we're going to do here at the Pikes Peak International Raceway is a performance launch control.
Power on, prepare.
Holding, letting go. Oh my gosh! That is acceleration unlike any Corvette has ever done before. And after that ludicrousness, we're moving into the Roval here at the Pikes Peak International Raceway with the Battery Plus mode activated. And so this is going to be regenerating as much charge into that 1.9 kilowatt hour battery pack as possible for sustained, consistent lapping. We will then, after a few laps of this, release the Battery Plus mode for maximum output to give us the quickest laps possible. Carbon ceramics have been bedded on these cars. That front axle pulling you out of the corner. Brakes have nice bite, and then we can trail brake in corners to get that rotation. feel that front end biting. Just clawing you forward. And then the rear end pushing you, giving you the shove. The two in concert, it's interesting. It's almost like I'm driving two different cars. I'm driving a front wheel drive car and a rear wheel drive car. Somehow it works together very well. Now we're getting some on-track time on our own. Let's see more of what the E-Ray can do. Hard on these brakes, trail them in. Nose tucks in nicely, power out. Trail the brakes in here. Late apex. Back in comes around. You can really get some nice rotation in this car with careful throttle management. On the straights, that torque coming out of the apex is wild. Set yourself up nicely, come into that apex, get on the power, back up on the banking. Just amazing. It's so nice and planted. Let the nose lead, let the back end pull you out. Give it the beans mid-throttle, have that stability of all-wheel drive. I'm unleashing Battery Plus now. We've got the full energy discharge. You can really play with this car in different ways than you can the Z06. The Z06 is a scalpel. This is like a Swiss Army knife. All right, and now we're on the autocross course. Well, we're not exactly on there yet, but I'm joined by Jason here from the Corvette team, and he's going to talk us through what we're doing for this autocross course with this vehicle, getting to just see how the all-wheel drive system can be optimized in a low traction situation. So eventually we're going to do some drifting. To start, we're just going to get to know the course. Yep. Okay, so I will put it in drive. That's a good first step, and we'll take it away. Starting our first run here, launch control, letting it go. Stab of the brakes here, cutting it in, quick slalom. Away we are. That's a lot of fun. Okay, now we've hopped in a yellow vehicle and I've let Jason out and turned the PTM system completely off. So traction and stability control are completely defeated. We're gonna see how the dynamics of the all-wheel drive system work here, particularly on that skid pad right over there. All right, we're gonna start with the custom launch, both paddles in, then the right, foot to the floor, letting it go. So interesting with the steering here in this track driving environment. I'm not experiencing the same oddity with how the steering was engaging. Oh, and I'm getting the back end to come around now with PTM off. Low speed here, stab it in. Sustained drift happening now. You can do this with an all-wheel drive car. This is insane. Oh my gosh, all-wheel drive Corvette does not mean it limits on the fun. The play that the front end grip gives you, and then it yields when the battery is drained. And then it's just a rear drive car, and you've got to really behave yourself. Oh, but this car is tons of fun everywhere, in all environments. Oh, it just wants to play. All right, folks, now that I've had a little bit of time with the E-Ray, both on road and on track, I need to come in and sort of address the concerns that I was having with this car, particularly the steering on road. I was saying it was dead on center. It was almost an overly quick rack. It felt unsettled, too excitable. And then I was saying that the fringes just off center were almost requiring too much effort just to get it past there, and then it almost pushed me back. I think a lot of that was an issue with the tires, the all-season rubber that I was using on road compared to the PS4S tires that I've had here on track. The behavior of the steering is so much more natural here, and I think that if you're expecting that on road, you'll learn to live with that, and then you'll really appreciate how on summer tires here on track, this car behaves so well. This E all-wheel drive system just unlocks a whole new dimension to the way the Corvette E-Ray performs compared to the C8 or compared to the Z06. It still doesn't feel as purpose-built, as laser-focused on track duty, and I think that's okay. This divergence of focuses for the Corvette now with the grand touring style of the E-Ray that can still definitely hack it on track and can still be a lot of fun versus the just street legal track car of the Z06 just give you this really nice new picture of Corvette and what this is going to mean for the future of this nameplate. I hope you guys have enjoyed this POV first drive. If you did, please like, comment, and share it. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to get notified, and I will see you again next time. Whee!